I think it's fair to say that crossing borders can be a little bit stressful at times, but crossing borders in Africa is a whole new ball game. I'm going to tell you about an experience we had. I mean my wife and myself, when we crossed from Kenya into Uganda. In Kenya, we had rented a old Land Rover to tour about, and we were heading to Uganda. Borders there, they're not like in Europe, of course. Sometimes they're in the middle of nowhere. They're just on a dirt track. They're in a little broken down village. So they're hard to navigate. And of course, the big problem in Africa is the corruption. The police, border officials and everything are always looking for backhanders. So we were driving using our satellite navigation towards the Ugandan border. When we could see that we were getting pretty close, we started to see more vehicles, a few trucks coming the other way. So we knew that we were on the right track. Yeah, we definitely knew that we were getting near the border. There were more and more people, people are taking stuff back and forwards to the border, and we were seeing more and more trucks both ways. Trucks going, obviously, heading to Uganda, and trucks coming the other way. So we were starting to get a little bit apprehensive. And a little bit surprisingly, it turned into a dirt road. So we knew with the congestion of the trucks coming towards us bumper to bumper that we're getting near the border. So we put down our camera and stopped filming, but we found the Kenya border post. We got a passport stamped, and then we continued. People were trying to pull us off into different places, guide us off, but we couldn't see the Ugandan immigration office. So we carried on, and eventually we were out of the village. They were just on the periphery of the village, and we still couldn't see any Ugandan immigration office. And we've been hassled by so many people that we just continued driving. We're now back onto a tarmac road. So we were like 99% sure that we're in Uganda. So we felt quite happy about that, and we didn't think about the consequences of getting back out of Uganda into Kenya. Well, we were in Uganda. We were absolutely delighted and looking forward to our time there. We had an absolutely fantastic time. We visited Murchison Falls, which was discovered by Samuel Baker and his wife Florence in 1864, I think. We actually camped in our Land Rover with a roof tent, actually just meters from Murchison Falls. We went to Queen Elizabeth National Park. We did a game viewing cruise on the Nile, and we saw a load of stuff, and we actually rafted the Nile. Oh, that wasn't so good for me, but that's a story for another time. So yeah, we had a fabulous time in Uganda. We were there for around a month, and then it come to time to leave. So we headed for the nearest border. We got there, we went into the immigration office. The guy there said that we didn't have the correct paperwork for entering Uganda, and we'd broken the law, and there could be serious consequences, and he rattled on for a bit. Obviously, he was after a backhander. So I don't like corruption, and so I came out and I told my wife about it. A guy came up to the Land Rover and he says, look, you can sort this for $100 US. Well, I didn't want to pay. I went back into the office. The guy, the immigration officer, he didn't actually openly ask for money, but obviously that was what he was after. But I sort of tried to get round it and see if I could do it, but he wouldn't have. I came out again. The guy approached me outside, said that he was a middleman, and it would cost me $100 to go through. So we were pretty angry about it. And I knew that there was another border crossing that was, I think it was about 70 miles away, and we'd be actually driving along the border. So what I thought is, we'll go there and give it a try there. Maybe we just met the wrong guy. And I also thought that, we're in the middle of nowhere. There won't be soldiers or guards all along the border. So, often in Africa and even other countries, local people who live in villages near a border, they often go back and forward to the next country, and there's no checking them. They're taking their animals there for grazing and this type of thing. So I thought, if I see a dirt track heading towards the border, I'll go down it and I'll cross the border into Kenya. So we continued. There were no dirt tracks, there were nothing. So I didn't. We got to the next border crossing. We parked up there, went into the immigration office. Same thing happened, exactly the same. The guy was obviously after some money. Same thing happened. We came outside, a guy came up to us, started asking for the money. I said that we won't pay in that. So we were parked by the border. My wife says she's going to go in and use her charm to try to get us through. So I was sat in the Land Rover waiting. I was just watching the border crossing. There was just a barrier. There was a little cubicle there. People drove up to the barrier. The guard came out. He looked like a soldier. He was dressed in a military uniform with a automatic rifle hanging around his neck. And he looked at the paperwork that got cleared from the immigration office. He went back into his cubicle thing and obviously pressed a button. The barrier went up and the people drove away. So anyway, I'm watching people going through the border thinking, oh God, I hope it's going to be my turn next. So my wife came back a little bit hysterical. She came out of the office and actually threw our passports on the floor. I jumped out and picked the passports up because that's the last thing we want to lose. But she was very upset about it. She got back in, she calmed down, we talked about it, and I said, well, look, I'm not going to pay that sort of money to go through. What I'm going to do is, I've watched the cars. I'm going to follow a car bumper to bumper to the barrier. When the barrier lifts, I'm going to follow him through and just hope it's going to be all right. So we were waiting, I don't know, 30 minutes or something. A car came, he drove up to the barrier. The guard came out of his little cubicle thing. He looked at the paperwork and he went back in. I was stuck literally 2 feet behind this car. So the barrier went up, the car drove through, and I followed it. I really honestly thought I was going to get shot. I said to my wife, get on the floor, but of course I had to sit there because I was driving. And luckily the car in front of me really took off. I floored it and took off, and luckily 20 meters there was a bend, went round some rocks, and nothing happened. We weren't shot and we escaped. So that was an enormous relief that it worked, because, well, you never know. I mean, I wouldn't advise anybody to do what we did, but we got there. We drove, I don't know what it was, half a mile, and then there was the Kenya border. So the vehicle we'd rented in Kenya, the paperwork was Kenyan. So I thought, if I have any problems here, I'm just going to leave the vehicle at the border. And tell the rental company to come and collect it, and hopefully I get away with that. So the same thing, we went to the immigration office. Actually, I thought that he might not be bothered because it's a Kenyan vehicle and we were returning and we had visas and everything. But he also said that there was some paperwork that had not been stamped by Uganda. And so I thought, oh my God, here we go again. How lucky am I going to be to run 2 border crossings? So the guy actually was really helpful. He was really nice. I didn't get that vibe that he was after any money. He filled in some forms. It took him about 20 minutes. He did some administration, stamped some things, and he says, you're free to go. And he didn't try at all. I mean, I just could not believe it. So we got in, we drove back into Kenya, and and we were so happy that it all worked out okay. So that was a sort of a minor experience. We've had worse things happen to us, and like I said, I wouldn't suggest anybody does that. And certainly, if you ever come to a military roadblock with armed soldiers there, don't try to run that like we did in Egypt. But that's a different story, because that didn't turn out too well at all.